I am so super excited for this moment in time, this moment of history on the Lucy and Kel show, minus Kel. This next guest is a 3-time Grammy nominee, a 3-time K-Love Male Vocalist of the Year, a Dove Award winner, and his song, haven't seen it yet, is the unofficial anthem, I would say, of this entire radio station. It is on high repeat, high rotation. Like literally every second song, I think, is that song. And he joins us now. It is the one and only Danny Gokey.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you for, wow, what an intro. And what an honor it is that you guys are spinning my music all the way in Australia.
Oh, my goodness. We are mad fans down here. Mad fans. And so this is why I'm so excited to be chatting to you. I want to take it back to the very beginning, though, because no one in Australia has any idea that you kind of got your start on American Idol, because we didn't get that season here. We have our own versions of those shows. But everyone here just knows you as Danny Gokey. We just know this great Christian artist, amazing songs. And I even said to the boys that I work with, I said, did you know he started on Idol? And they had no idea. Is it nice to kind of know that everyone here just loves you for you?
That is nice. And because sometimes, you know, in the beginning when I started, especially, people were always, you know, associating me with American Idol. And so it's nice. And I always was just praying. I was like, God, I hope there's a day that comes where they'll know me for Danny Gokey and the music I put out. So that's awesome.
Well, Australia's well ahead of that now. We had no idea. And it was season 8, the Adam Lambert season. What was that like?
Yeah. Well, you know, for me, it was a little different because I had lost my wife 1 month before that show.
Yeah.
And people might say, well, that's crazy. Well, why would you go on a show if you're walking through the tragedy? Well, first of all, we planned it together, me and her. She had a heart condition, and we believed that God could heal, you know, and, you know, we've seen some impossible things. We both grew up in a church. But what happens when God doesn't answer your prayers the way that you think they should be answered? And I think a lot of people, it's a pivotal moment in people's lives because a lot of people turn away from God and begin to say, well, I don't believe in God, or I think God is kind of a bully. You know, there's a few different ways to people approach it. But in me, I was desperate. I was like, well, man, I'm nothing without God. And although I'm a little bit mad, I need him. So anyways, another thing which is interesting was that I was 28. It was the last year I could try out for American Idol.
Oh, wow.
You don't get a second chance after that.
Really?
But even though as uncomfortable as it was, you know, a lot of times comfort zone is probably the most dangerous place you can be in. And I went on the show. I kept my promise to my first wife. And man, I found hope in Hollywood. I know that usually isn't, you know, something that's correlated together, but I found hope in Hollywood. And it helped me out. And I would encourage, because if there's listeners who are walking through dark seasons right now, which we all do, no one's exempt from it, I would encourage you to keep walking and don't be like a parked car, because it's very easy to go into depression and go into anger and go into bitterness, but that's a dark hole that always, I should say, never ends. And I got up, I went, and God did the rest.
My goodness. I was doing a bit of reading about that, and I'd seen that you guys had been together 12 years, which is a really long time. She was your childhood sweetheart. And then, 4 weeks before you're on TV, you lose the love of your life. And then you thrust into this show where the spotlight is on you. And in America, that show is just a juggernaut. And that season was huge. Yeah. Was it part of the healing process for you, knowing that you were doing something that she had been so passionate about you doing?
Yes, it was part of the healing process for sure. But can I just tell you something? A secret that I learned is that a bitter heart can make anything good bad. And I had to walk. So it's not like I just got up and I went on the show. There was this battle. So I made it through the first round. That brought great hope to me. I was like, oh man, maybe God can do something with this story. Then I made it through the second, third, fourth judges round, made it through there. Now I'm on my way to Hollywood. Now Hollywood, something triggered. All of a sudden I'm starting to fall into depression because I'm understanding there are some questions that are not being answered. And there are some questions that are gnawing at me. And I remember I made it all the way to Hollywood, and I had a come to Jesus moment. And I literally told God this. I said, I don't want to go on a show anymore. I'm top 50. If I go on a show, I'm going to be a mess. I'm going to look like a fool, and I'm going to make Christianity look like a fool. Because, you know, we're called ambassadors and to be representations of Jesus, right? God dealt with my heart in that moment. He gave me Psalm 46:10, and this is what he said. be still and know that I'm God. And I remember it's like that verse. If you want to know what the voice of God is like, you'll see a reoccurring message. And for me, it was Psalm 46:10, right?
Yeah.
And finally, I'm like, I know God is speaking because this is not an accident. I sit at the edge of my bed and I'm like, I'm going to be still and know that you're God. This is not working, God. Finally, that's the truth. And I was like, but he's speaking. So let me dig further. Sometimes you got to dig. It's not just going to be super evident, right? I look into the Hebrew and this is what it means. It means let go.
Yeah.
Stop fighting with God.
Good.
And then this is the one that got me in the Hebrew. Cause yourself to let go. And I saw it. In that moment, I sat at the edge of my bed. I pictured myself at the graveside of my wife, Sophia, my first wife. And I literally, as they were burying her, I remember as they were lowering her down. I know this sounds morbid, but it's the truth. Sometimes you got to deal with this stuff. It's like they were burying her, but they were burying me as well. And I pictured myself back at that site. And I just said, I said this out loud. I refuse to allow this to make me a bitter man for the rest of my life. I refuse to allow this to destroy who I am and what I'm supposed to do. And I literally would just go through this process over and over again. And it's like somebody took a cork out of my heart and the negative, nasty emotions come spewing out of my heart. And I was excited to go back on American Idol again. Now I had to do this over and over again because those emotions are going to catch up with you. That memory of what didn't go right and what went wrong, what that person did to you is gonna come back, but you have to practice saying, no, I'm not letting that in. And I was able to see American Idol. My whole point was American Idol started looking bitter, then God dealt with my heart, and it was a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
Oh man, I don't know. I know this is broadcasting to hundreds of thousands of Melburnians, but I feel like that was just for me. I'm sure it was for many people, but man, that's speaking into my life and my situation. You even took the loss of Sophia and you've turned that into something even more extraordinary with the foundation. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so man, one thing you learn about my life is things are a journey. And if I don't get it right the first time, I'll get it right the second time. But there was a life insurance policy. So that I didn't know about. And why did I know about it? Is because we had health benefits, dental and health insurance through her job. Well, when she passed away, her principal came up to me and gave me a check for $39,000. Wow. It was more money than I'd ever seen. I said, well, what is this? And he said, this is a death benefit that they want to help take care of the widows or the widowers who have gone through the death of a spouse. My immediate reaction was, this is not for me. I need to start something that'll keep her legacy alive. Wow. Fast forward some years, I started Sophia's Heart. A man gave me a 77,000 square foot hospital for $10 on 5 acres in Nashville. I took that. I started redoing it, getting the community involved. We rehabilitated 200 homeless families off the street with that ministry. We gave to other ministries who were helping. We did music and arts programs. And this is where the story gets a little crazy. My music career started taking off because what people don't know, like I said, the journey's kind of unreal. I got dropped on my first record label off of American Idol. So now imagine this. You just came off the biggest show, ready to set up for your music career, and now you get dropped. I was like, man, if you don't make it off of American Idol, you ain't making it no way. But God, right?
Yeah.
And 5 years after American Idol, I got signed by a record label. Literally, this is what they told my manager. He said, Mitchell, I don't know why I'm signing Danny Gokey, but I feel like I have to. And he looked him dead in the eye. He said, don't make me lose any money. He said, at least make me break even. And I thought in my mind, well, so you're saying I got a chance. Let's go. And my music career started taking off. I started having more success. I didn't have the right staff. I ended up shutting down the organization, but it's now formed into a new organization that I can't really reveal fully, but we're doing a brand new thing called Better Than I Found It. And I believe in the next year, it's going to be revealed what that is. So God will transition you. What looks like failure sometimes is just transitioning to the new season.
Yeah, setbacks can sometimes be setups for something bigger and better. And something that did happen about 9 years ago, you did remarry, and that's so exciting. She is, I checked her out on Insta, and she seems like a firecracker. She's hilarious. I love her. And you've got 4 beautiful children now.
Yeah, my wife, her name is Leah Set. She is a Latina. She is, like you said, a firecracker, and she's a lot of fun. I have 4 beautiful children. And this is what I love. And I really hope the listeners grab at least something like this from my stories, that when I thought it was the end, it wasn't the end. And it took faith. Sometimes you got to this is why faith is so important. Faith allows you to see things that aren't happening yet. It gives you the hope to say something will be better when it's not. because I remember I dealt with suicide when Sophia passed. I was really upset, and
Yep.
I was like, "What's my point of living?" But I'm glad I kept walking through because I have 4 beautiful kids, a wife, a music career, even my last baby. I know this is gonna sound maybe crazy, people, but check this out, y'all. My last baby, when my wife was pregnant, he was born in 2019. Now, I know it's gonna sound crazy. We didn't hear audible voice, but the Lord really dealt with our hearts and said, "Name this baby Emmanuel."
Mhm.
And this is when she's 6 months pregnant. So we named the baby Emmanuel. Well, little did I know that when he came on his due date, it would be the same birthday as my first wife, Sophia.
Oh,
Emmanuel means God with us.
oh,
And what I believe what God was showing me, it wasn't about my first wife in the sense because she's taken care of, she's in heaven,
mm,
but it was that God was showing me I was with you when the moments that you didn't see me, when you didn't sense me. And I think people need to hear that. I look back 11 years from that moment, the depressions, the
mm.
anxiety, the stress, and I was like, he was with me the whole time. I made a big deal out of nothing at times.
Yes. That's a good reminder, isn't it? A great reminder. What have
Yeah.
you learnt about being a dad? What's it taught you about you deep down?
That I need to grow up, that I'm a child in a lot of ways, right? And so for me, I'm learning to. One thing I didn't know is I could love this much. It helps me understand,
Mm,
I guess, the love of God in ways that I've never seen before and understood. But I'd give my life for those kids.
mm.
But at the same time, it's really dealing with my selfishness because I can sure be selfish.
Yeah, yeah. We can all be, can't we? Let's talk about being someone who is, famous especially in the Christian world, and you get on stage and there can be, millions of adoring people, and you can win. I saw that you've won like Male Artist of the Year, like constantly every year, like 5 years running. You just keep winning. And I was laughing because I saw your wife post a video saying she refused to vote for you. She was going to vote for Matthew West, which
Yes.
I found hysterical. But is it ever hard to draw the line between being someone who's just trying to serve God and be authentic on
Yeah.
stage and not trip over that line of being a showman or getting caught up in the adulation of it all? Is that ever hard, or is it something that you can see two different worlds?
It's very difficult. I come on here, share stories of what cool breakthroughs in my life that God has given me. But there's those moments that you don't share with people when you're saying, "Am I a failure?
Mm,
My song didn't do as good as last one. I see this artist coming through and I'm looking insignificant in this artist's shadow." That's a real thing. But one of my deepest prayers is that I don't miss life through distractions
mm,
and that I'm not trying to run someone else's race. That this is not a competition. The only competition that you have is you have with yourself and being the best version of you. Uh, but I felt like I was dealing with that recently, and I had to just go back and say, here's what I would say. Some people, when we get to heaven, now this is from my Christian point of view. I know a
mhm.
lot of people believe differently, but this is what I'm going to say. Some people that look like they're doing the most, when we get to heaven, we're going to find out that they were doing the least. And some people who look like they were doing the least, we're going to find out that they were doing the most.
Mm,
It's, and what I mean by that, nothing, Paul says in Corinthians, he says, if I give all my money to the poor and yet I don't have love, it's like, it's like clanging brass and a
yep.
sounding cymbal.
Hmm.
I can give my body to be burned, but if I don't have love, it means nothing. What am I saying? Is that love is the foundation of actual good things. And the only thing that matters is when we do things in love, not when we do things to be seen
Mm,
and do things to get the accolades of people. So I always keep that as a reminder. And is it easy? No, but I don't want to be a shallow human being
yep.
that is distraught because everything's about me.
Mm. I love that. Look, before we let you go, because we've spent so much time with you this morning, and we love that, and I can see you're on your beautiful farm. What a wonderful
Mm.
day off you're getting to have there. I just want to talk about the track that has meant a lot to this station and a lot to our listeners. Now, we're playing your new stuff, and I don't want to be one of those people that bang on about people's old stuff, but
I love,
haven't seen
yeah,
it yet. I can't explain to you how much this station plays it. I can't explain to you how
yeah.
many listeners have told me that it has been life-changing for them. And personally, and I'm very open with my listeners. I'm an open book. They know everything I've gone through. But the last few years of my life, I've battled some really big life changes, and I've struggled with depression and anxiety and being in such a dark place. I thought about taking my own life. And I kid you not, and everyone knows this already, so the listeners know what I'm going to say because I've said this on air 101 times before. But your song was the only thing that got me through some of those darkest times.
Wow.
And in those times where I couldn't face anybody or face anything, I would put it on repeat and I would sit in my car and I would let that song wash over me. And to this day, whenever it comes on in the studio, in fact, we posted a video that you retweeted recently where it comes on in the studio and then I just stand up and I just sing it at the top of my lungs for like 3.5 minutes and then I sit back down. And I love the music we play in this station, but it's the only song I get up and I just yell into the ether because it is so healing. And I have heard that story from others time and time and time and time again. Tell me about the motivation of that story and how does it feel knowing that there is a song out there that is changing lives right around the globe?
What an honor it is to know that songs are connecting in that way, because that's the whole point. Can I tell you, when I wrote that song, I didn't want to go to the writing session that day. I was dealing with depression. And it's interesting, when I was in the session that day and I was writing, we were writing on a song called New Day at the time. And I remember just saying, I need to go and just finish New Day and get out as fast as I can. When I got there, I said, hey, we're just going to finish New Day, right? I didn't want to tell the guys I was really dealing with some really heavy stuff. And they said, no, we're starting a new song. And my heart sank and I was like, oh, I don't want to start a new song. So in that moment, I just poured my heart. I said, guys, I don't want to be here. I said, and for me, God is everything to me. I was like, God didn't come through on some stuff for me. And remember, this is the guy that has seen crazy God do some insane things. This is back in 2018. And I just said, I don't want to do it. But as I begin to say why I don't, I noticed something changed in my speech. I said, but God was there when this happened. And when I thought this was going to happen, God did this. And I literally started just speaking from the place of not of unbelief, but a place of, let me not just embellish in the moment that I'm feeling. Let's walk through this, not just how I see it, but how really what's happened. God did this, God did that. Don't forget what he has done before. And remember, he can do it all once more. All of a sudden I said, I'm saying if he did in the past, he can do it again. And let me tell you, this is why faith is so important. Because you notice how unbelief will push you away from God, because it'll make you look at God and say, I don't believe that you can turn this around, or I don't believe that you are as good as you say you are. I believe faith is so important to God, because when you're making a declaration, he is moving with the love so deep. Hallelujah for the victory. Good things are coming when you can't see. You're a person who's walking towards God and aligning yourself with God, the one who brings breakthrough. And for that moment, for anything, I started realigning with God and his plan. And I wrote that song. But then I would say this, it made faith arise. It made hope arise. And I think more than anything, people don't need to see the breakthrough. They just need to see it in their heart first, through whatever it is, through a song or through a dream. And that hope will make you walk towards God and towards your miracle. And I believe that's what that song does.
Man, you know what? It's always a treat when you talk to people and you think you're going to have a great chat, and then you find out that the person behind the song is just an extraordinary speaker with an incredible passion for God. Man, what a treat. You are an absolute legend.
Hey, thank you, Lucy.
Just well done on everything you're doing. Thank you for creating such beautiful art and blessing people with it. And I pray that somehow, I know one day you'll understand the change, and I don't think you'll figure it out maybe until you're in heaven, the change that happened in the world, in people's lives and hearts, simply because of your faithfulness in writing and recording these songs with such an obedient heart. Danny Gokey, you are an absolute legend. What an honor to chat to you. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Wow, Lucy, it's an honor for me, and I'm speechless too, because I never thought that God could use someone like me. And it's been beautiful to see, because when I'm singing these songs, I've walked through it.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like, I'm saying this is real. This is not fake. So thank you.
2 questions before you go. One, when are you coming to Australia? I know COVID's thrown a spanner in the works, but my goodness, we brought the boys from For King and Country down a little while back. And they're good mates of the station. We had a massive concert, and I reckon TheLight would love to bring Danny Gokey down. So when can you come here?
I want to go so bad. So I get Australia every week here in Nashville, because my pastor's Australian. A bunch of Australian people from Australia come to our church in Nashville. And so I want to go, just because I've been at this church with our lead pastors being from Australia. They talk about it all the time. They're from Melbourne.
Yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah.
Well, you've got places to stay here, I'm sure. And before you go, if people are watching the video, it looks like there's a dead animal behind you, but I have a feeling
yeah, I
it's like
know.
a sleeping dog. Please tell me it's not
This
like,
is
oh, it's alive.
Yeah, I know. I was nervous. I was like, man, that dog looks dead right there, but she's not. This is Sweet Pea. She is older. She's my little Brindle Mastiff. She's
Oh,
such a sweetheart. She's a beautiful
I'm
baby
glad to see
girl.
that she's alive and kicking. I was a little worried for a minute there. Thank you
I
so
love
much
it.
for your time. Love to you and the wife and the kids, and we hope to see you down under when this whole COVID thing is over, Danny.
Yes. Thank you all. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.